Will JP Crawford and or Bryce Miller start the season on the IL? And if so, what will that mean? A bit of talk about the Randy and Cal beef, some thoughts about the WBC, and some more. And that's what you're going to get from today's episode on Raise the Trident. I talked with Dane Gonzalez of Locked On Mariners. Of course, before we get into it, please like the video. You can subscribe as well to the channel if you never want to miss a video. We are almost to opening day, and with that, the season's going to begin. That means a lot of content is on the horizon. A lot of cool things going to be announced very soon enough. If you're a member of the channel for only a couple dollars a month, you would know some of those things because I just last night posted a members only secret link to something special that's going to be coming public soon. Well, let's get right into it. My talk with Dane Gonzalez. So this is going to be the last check-in for Mariners spring training of 2026. We're only like 8 or so days away from opening day. So this is going to be the last one.
Why not 6, 7? Right?
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, if this comes out tomorrow, which right now it's the 17th, then like, hey, we're in the 7. We're getting there. We're getting there. So, there's a few things we need to talk about. Of course, I have, Dane Gonzalez of Locked On Mariners. Not the first time he's been on this channel, and certainly not the last either. And yeah, there's just some things, that have kind of popped up. Like the WBC has really, I felt like, taken away pretty much all of my attention from Mariner spring training, as well as I think everyone's at the end of the day, for good reasons and some bad reasons. We might get into that a little bit. But yeah, we're going to try to kind of cover our bases here for kind of what the major storylines are right now, what's going on right now in the Mariners news. So starting off with the most recent thing, which is JP Crawford. So he was missing some time due to a sore shoulder. Within like the last couple weeks, it's really been a problem where he has been missing spring training games due to it. They've been giving him, multiple days off and, having him DH instead of play shortstop, stuff like that. And it was reported today that he did fly down to Texas to meet with Dr. Keith Meister, who, it sounds like the imaging was negative. It doesn't look serious. There hasn't been like a specific diagnosis or anything that has been released, but it's to the point where they felt they had to go get it checked out to make sure there wasn't some structural issue going on, which there isn't. But obviously that leads to the big question, right? JP Crawford, is he going to start the year on the IL? And if so, what is that going to look like for this roster? And that's kind of the question we're going to talk about a little bit today. So I guess first of all, Ty, like, what was kind of your reaction when you saw that? Obviously it's been in the news a little bit that he's been having the sore shoulder issues and all that, but when he was actually going and getting imaging done, like, what was your reaction to that?
Well, listening to Justin Hollander speak on it, it doesn't seem like it's something too serious. It feels more so like something that they need to figure out if there's something that they can do to prevent him just having to manage it over the course of the season, and maybe an IL stint could help with that or not. We know the Mariners, especially at this time of the year, they recognize how long a season is. They obviously have much bigger goals beyond the initial 162. And so if they have an opportunity here to help themselves out more so long term, they'll take it, right? Even if it means that they get worse in the interim for the first month or so of the season. I think maybe this could be something that JP, like if this was October, maybe this is something that he kind of just battles through. But for now, like they want to try and keep him as fresh as possible again, like over the course of the full season. So if there's something that they can do here where he's not having to deal with it in say July, then do it now. Right. So what does that mean, for the roster to start the year? I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's kind of a similar situation to the Bryce Miller thing where it's just like, even though it doesn't seem too serious, you just have to worry about the amount of reps that he's gotten or lack thereof. And if that means that he still could use an IL stint and maybe, play some games down in extended spring training or, in Tacoma when the Rainiers kick off their season before he's ready to make, because he's only played 7 games in spring. So you do have to wonder about that. You have to wonder, like, all right, if everything gets cleared by Dr. Keith Meister, he returns to camp and they feel like he can play some games, like how many games is he going to play before opening day? Is that enough in their eyes? because again, you can put him on the IL with the shoulder thing, let him keep playing in extended spring training games, and then revisit once his time on the or reassess once his time on the IL is up. And in the meantime, Leo Rivas is probably your starting shortstop, or it could be Cole Young, and Rivas plays some second, or Donovan plays some second, Rivas, however you want to do it, right? And then I don't think this opens the door for Colt Emerson. I don't see them bringing him up, especially for the sake of him only being up for like maybe a couple weeks, so long as this JP thing doesn't get more serious. So I would assume that it's probably someone like Will Wilson. It's going to have to be someone off of the 40-man. They don't have anyone on the 40-man that can play in the infield. That's already, that's not already like in the 26-man roster equation. So it could be, I think Will Wilson's probably the ideal guy here because he can play some shortstop. Though, because they have Young, because they have Rivas, because Donovan could probably play some shortstop in a pinch. They don't have to get a guy that can play shortstop. So they could also go with Patrick Wisdom, who can play some third, and gives them, a guy that can run into one off of the bench. They could go with Connor Joe, who's had a really nice spring. They could go with Brock Rodden, but it's kind of a similar situation there with Rodden, like with Ryan Bliss, where it's just he didn't play much last year, so you kind of want to get him at bats. Like, really, what it comes down to is like, who are you most comfortable with just kind of wasting away on your bench for the next couple of weeks? Because this guy's probably not going to play much, ideally, right? Will Wilson, 27 years old. I don't care. Like, he can, he's just there, like in case, he's break glass in case of emergency guy. Brock Rodden shouldn't be that guy. Ryan Bliss shouldn't be that guy, in my mind. Cole Emerson absolutely should not be that guy. So that's where I kind of see them. That's kind of the direction that I see them heading in. And then there's always, the potential to add someone, as rosters start to get cut down around the league and all that. Maybe there's someone interesting that gets cut there. But yeah, my guess right now, because of how much time JP has missed, I think he does start the year on the IL, but we'll see. That's just me speculating. I obviously don't know anything, and I'm obviously not a doctor.
Yeah, so that was kind of what I get into a little bit, like what are the other options, right? Like if JP does have to start on the IL, which as you said, seems like is very possible at this point, like who is going to take that over? And, a lot of people will immediately say Colt Emerson, right? Because all spring training for literally the past like 2 months now, he has been the talk of spring training in the sense of, can he break this opening day roster? That was one of the biggest questions coming into Peoria as well. And I will say Colts, I think the chances initially were, unless he breaks the door down and is like going off in spring training, like then he would have a chance. But otherwise, he's probably going to start in AAA, which ultimately is probably the wiser move anyways. Because I mean, let's be real, he's only played like it was like 8 plate appearances, like not even that much at all in Tacoma. Like that would have been kind of crazy. And in spring, I mean, he really has not been breaking the door down at all. In 40 plate appearances, he's posted a 75 WRC plus at the plate in Peoria. So he is not having the best time down there. Yeah. And so then you have to look into the other options, right? You have obviously Leo Rivas, I think was going to make the roster anyways. I wasn't, I think he's the obvious pick, and we know he can play some shortstop. I'd be a little worried about Cole Young. Like, obviously he had some worries about his arm strength a little bit, which, whether that's real or not or whatever, it feels like, you can put Leo there and he'll be, serviceable enough defensively where it's not going to kill you or anything. It would have been Miles Mastrobuoni had he not gotten injured in the WBC. Exactly. Unfortunately, he was actually doing pretty well, only 3 ABs, but he was looking to be hitting pretty well. And then he had to be sent home after the pool play round for Team Italy. So I haven't really heard a whole lot about what his injury specifically is and like what the timetable is, but it doesn't sound like he's in the running for this right now. So that should tell you enough probably. So Will Wilson, for example, kind of going on Cole Emerson not playing well in spring. Will Wilson has been. Will Wilson in 29 plate appearances is posting 132 WRC plus, so he is hitting well right now. And as you said, has a bit of defensive versatility there. He can play second base, he can play third base, and at that point, you could maybe put him at shortstop if you really need to. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is like it's not going to be Cole Emerson, more likely than not. And, I think I would almost be, I don't want to say malpractice, but like he needs to get some time in Tacoma, I think. And the PCL
I don't
could
think
help his confidence.
Yeah, and I don't think the Mariners want to have him make the roster because of injury. They want him to make the roster because he earned it. And he hasn't really earned it this spring. Like he's got a 75 WRC plus in spring, and obviously you don't want to read too much into spring numbers, positive or negatively. But he's just not knocking the door down. He looks like he can hold his own, but again, he's 20 years old. He's not necessarily killing it right now. He only has a handful of plate appearances at the AAA level. Send him back down. He could use some time, right? This isn't the typical like, oh, let's send him down to AAA to work on his defense, quote unquote, with code word for service timing him. Like it's not that, right? He needs some time, and he needs playing time too. And especially like if you're gonna roll with Rivas and Young as your primary combination here, and the time that JP is down, then Cole Emerson, like you don't want him to only play like 3 or 4 times a week. Like you want him to play every single day. And his best opportunity to do that right now is in Tacoma, where he can go through the peaks and valleys and it doesn't impact your club, right? So yeah, it's just if it was for if JP's injury was more serious, then maybe they would do it. But because it kind of seems like it's only going to be like a couple week type of thing, he's already been kind of trying to play through it, all that. Again, like I said, like it kind of feels like maybe this is something that if it was later on this season, maybe he would just gut it out, but like because it's only going to be, or at least it seems like it's only going to be kind of this short-term thing. There's no point in calling up Emerson, especially if like the corresponding move once JP is ready to go is sending him back down. All right. So,
I mean, Cole Emerson probably is the best defensive option to replace JP at shortstop. Like out of all the options, he's the best defender, and he would be the best defender. But you're not calling up Cole Emerson because he's the best defender. You want it to be because he's the best overall player. Like he is your best shot at winning games. And could he be a better shot than Will Wilson or whoever else? Like, I mean, maybe, but like, I mean, that at the end of the day, that's all hypothetical, right? Like,
sure. And it's like you feel decent about Rivas. He's going to give you a good plate appearance every time, every turn through the order. And ideally, it's Rivas and Young primarily playing up the middle, and then you hardly see this other guy, right? And again, if you're hardly going to see this guy, it should be someone like Miles Mastrobuoni or Will Wilson. It shouldn't be Brock Rod. It shouldn't be Ryan Bliss, because that's just doing a disservice to those guys specifically, because they need playing time. They missed a lot of time last year. Bliss especially missed a ton of time. Rodden only played like 40 some odd games last year. They just need ample playing time, and they're not going to get that as things are currently constructed. So so I think Wilson or like Wisdom probably the right way to go, or getting someone from the outside once roster cut downs start happening.
For sure. All right, so we're going to move on to Bryce Miller here. He has also been one of the, I will say it's been nice that going through spring training, like we're only talking about JP and Bryce Miller when it comes to injuries right now, like major injuries, and not even major injuries. I mean, these are guys who are trying to work through it, or, it's not looking like at least big deals are going to affect their whole season or anything. So Bryce Miller, I mean, he has been having issues with his side. Has it been officially labeled an oblique or not?
It's oblique inflammation.
Yeah. So he has been having that issue for the last couple weeks now as well. He had one scheduled bullpen that was going to be kind of a touch and go type deal about a week ago, and then he went 3 pitches in and stepped off and he was done. And then he had another one a few days ago. That one seemed to go fine, no reported issues. And then today there was a full energy, full go bullpen. We have not heard anything as of, a few hours after that's taken place. So, hopefully that's a good sign. We just haven't heard anything yet. But I mean, it's looking like, Bryce Miller could also start the year on the IL, albeit potentially very brief. So, that's a new question, right? Who's going to take over for that?
So yeah, like I said when we were talking about JP, like it just you have to worry about ramp up time and if he's had enough of it, and it just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to ramp up in time for that first start against either the Guardians in the last game of that series or the first game of the Yankees series. So in the interim, it's going to be one of Cooper Criswell or Emerson Hancock. I don't really care that much about who it winds up being. I don't think there's too great of a difference between the two, though I really like Hancock a lot more pitching out of the bullpen and pitching in shorter stints and just having him let it rip right out of the gate. So ideally to me, I do technically have a preference. It's just not a strong preference, but it would be to have Criswell be the starter and have Hancock pitch out of the bullpen. But it's also possible those guys might piggyback one another, especially if this is going to be a very short-term thing where Bryce only misses 1 to 2 starts. And by the way, they don't necessarily have to put Bryce on the IL, right? Because it's a 15-day IL. Maybe they think he's only a few days, removed, right? Like maybe he's only like a few days behind is what I should say, than where he should be. And, they could just IL him. He has, or not IL, they can send him down to AAA because he has 3 minor league options left. Just let him, throw a rehab start or 2 down in Tacoma that way without having to go through the whole IL process. So we'll see what they want to do on that front. And we'll see how long that, Criswell and Hancock stay in the rotation. It just doesn't seem like that long. It seems like Bryce is already on the upward swing. He's already kind of turned the corner on this injury. And I mean, it was obviously it was good news that even when he had to cut that bullpen short, that Justin Hollander immediately said he's not shut down from throwing. It's just he's still kind of working through this, but it seems like it's pretty much done with. It's just he's kind of got to get over that final hump. And I think maybe today was the first sign of him kind of getting over that final hump. And now it's just about him getting ramped up again so he can go throw, 75, 85 pitches in his first start at the major league level. But that might take into spring training start or another Cactus League start and maybe a rehab start in Tacoma to do. And again, they can just send him down to Tacoma without ILing him in order for him to do that. And maybe he makes that second scheduled start, which would be in Anaheim, I think, maybe. So we'll see.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's that much of a concern. If anything, it seems like it's less of a concern than JP right now. But of course, anytime one of our starting pitchers gets, even somewhat injured, especially Bryce Miller too, the kind of the issues he's had for the last year or so. Yeah, you always kind of take it a little bit more seriously. But I mean, I will say that's the only big injury news we have to talk about because, like I said, I mean, the only person I know of other than that is Miles Mastrobuoni, who, was maybe going to end up being a bench spot, maybe, who knows. I will say, judging off of prior spring trainings and all that, I mean, are you pretty satisfied with kind of how relatively, I don't know, I guess injury free it's been thus far? Which, I mean,
it's been boring. Let's just say it. Let's just call it for what it is. It's been boring. Right,
but
especially
good.
For us,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, for the content creators in us, it's a bad thing because it's just sure. There's nothing to talk about, right? Yeah. My dad called me last night. He's like, "Hey, what's new with spring training?" I'm like, "Nothing, pops. Nothing at all. Going on. No, nothing's going on." Yeah. Yeah. Really, there just isn't a whole lot. There's no real camp battle. Today, Colby and I recorded our 26-man roster projection. We talked about the backup catcher spot and the 8th bullpen role or the 7th bullpen role, and maybe if JP misses time, that's it. And we're talking about a backup infielder at that point. So yeah, I mean, on one hand, yeah, it sucks as a content creator. On the other hand, though, just for what's actually important here, it's great. It speaks to the work that this organization has done to build this roster into what it ultimately is, into one of the best rosters in baseball. And yeah, I mean, it's It's great that they've made it through camp, relatively healthy. I mean, obviously they're dealing with some injuries, but neither of them seem that too significant, and neither of them are too. Obviously, they're very important players, but they're not too like the elite players, right? It's not like the Astros dealing with Josh Hader and Jeremy Pena being hurt right now. It's not to kind of that level. So yeah, they're in a really good spot. Knock on wood. We still got about a week or so to go here, but it seems like they're in a pretty good spot heading into opening day overall.
Yep. That's exactly what I feel like. Last year, around this time, we were talking about, George Kirby had already pretty much been down at that point. I don't remember all of who else, no one else started on the IL necessarily at that point, but this was also 2 years ago when Matt Brash had to go get Tommy John and all that stuff, right? So it's just the fact that we've gotten, now to March 17th. Like I said, we're less than 10 days away from opening day, and the most notable injuries we can really talk about are ones where we frankly don't even know if they're going to require IL stints to start the year. I'll take that for sure. But real quick disclaimer before we get into this next section, we are going to talk a little bit about the Cal and Randy beef. Now, I understand that this is a really polarizing topic. I know a lot of people don't simply want to talk about it or hear about it anymore, which is totally understandable. So just like with most of my longer form videos, there is chapters on this, so you can skip over this section. Just look down below, either on your cursor bar or in the description. You can skip this section if you don't want to hear about it. Totally fine by me. So your choice, but we're going to get back into it. But I mean, as you said, the content's been a little tough to come by when it comes to spring training. So let's talk about stuff that did give us some content. We're going to talk a little bit about the WBC.
Are you going to perpetuate drama, Jake?
Yeah. So here's the deal. Okay. RTT TMZ. That is what we're doing now. And we have to talk about it because I have not talked about it yet on this channel. I was going to make a video a couple days after this all went down. But then I kind of honestly decided not to, because I'm like, I really don't know how to talk about it without feeling like I'm probably going to end up getting a bunch of crap for it. So very briefly, the WBC has been going on, the World Baseball Classic, which in general, I will say the tournament has been fantastic. There's been a lot of great moments, a lot of great games. The atmosphere has been incredible, especially, I mean, just look at like some of the clips from last night's game, Venezuela versus Italy, and like just how loud that stadium is. I mean, I've that stadium was louder than like most World Series clinching last out like reactions that I've heard. It's ridiculous. But with that, on the Mariners side of things have not necessarily been as great in that regard, unfortunately. The Mariners sent, I believe, 17 total players to the WBC, which was a lot. Granted, Jonathan Diaz, who is on Venezuela, hasn't pitched a single inning, so he's like he's the literal what's that, the Halliburton meme from the Olympics and all that, hasn't done anything on the team project.
He's Jeff Teague on the Bucks.
Exactly. But a lot of the star players that we've sent there have not performed great, including Cal Raleigh, who hasn't gotten a single hit in the WBC, and tonight's the final and he's not in the lineup, so he is most likely going to end this tournament without a hit potentially. And Gabe Spire's been giving up homers. Julio's been okay. He's walked a decent amount, but like that's about it. Munoz was all right.
I mean, he had the great catch. He had the great catch.
He had the robbing catch of Aaron Judge. So defensively, he did good in that front. But, the biggest Mariners news that came out of here was Cal Raleigh and Randy Arozarena. We're going to talk about this very briefly, I promise, because I know people are probably already annoyed at this. It's just I haven't covered it on this channel. So if you've been living under a rock like Patrick Starr, you don't know what's going on. A quick rundown is, Team USA has this like thing where they're being ultra competitive in the sense of where like they will not even acknowledge their opponents at all. They won't do handshakes, no hugs, no high fives, no first baseman talking to runners at first base type deal. And that unfortunately came up where Cal Raleigh, who was catching during the Team USA versus Team Mexico game in the pool play round, Randy Arozarena comes up to the plate, extends his hand for a handshake. Cal Raleigh doesn't give him a handshake at all. And then after the game, Randy's asked about that, and he had some interesting words to say about Cal Raleigh, in the sense of, you know, basically telling Cal to die. It's like pretty much like what it boiled down to. It was crazy stuff. The next like 12 hours too was a lot of people not necessarily knowing for sure if it was a joke or if what Randy said was serious or not.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was certainly in the camp of this has to be a joke, more in the sense of there's just no way in hell that Randy said that to the media in earnest, because that is his teammate. He was saying it in earnest. And so, you know, we haven't had to talk about injuries in spring training, but we had to talk about this crap.
We had to talk about that shit. Yeah.
So Cal then has to issue a statement, basically saying that he loves Randy. He hates that this was a deal and a drama and a beef that was being reported on, and, you know, all that stuff. And Randy decided to say nothing about it, really. And if anything, he started taking more little jabs on social media and stuff and all that. So at this point, that's literally where we're at now, because Cal Raleigh's still at the WBC. Randy and Team Mexico obviously got eliminated. Randy's back at spring training, so we haven't gotten any, you know, reports of, you know, Cal getting back to spring training, what's going on there. I will, you know, my question to you, Ty, is ranking, you know, 1 out of 10. Is this like one of the stupidest things you've had to cover regarding the Mariners?
I've had a lot of stupid things to cover with the Mariners in my time, you know. Some comments from a certain front office, you know, some ownership related things.
For sure.
The Kevin Mather thing was pretty dumb. There's a lot of stupid stuff that I've had to cover in my time. This is up there though, and at the very least, you know, because it was too quiet. Things were going too well.
Yeah,
you know, you knew something was going to happen. At the very least, this time it's the players. It's not, you know, Jerry or Justin or ownership or something. Like that's refreshing for a change. But it's it's funny. It's funny because I like you. I thought it was a joke, you know, because Randy's a goofy guy. We know who you know how Randy is. Like he was shagging fly balls in a poncho and cowboy boots like 3 hours before he made those comments. You know, like he's a silly guy. But then once you heard like Dan be like, got to talk to those guys about this, and then Kalish is the same, and you're like, it's real. Oh no. And by the way, I feel like Mariners PR could have played this off as a joke. They could have found a way to play it off as a joke, you know, but whatever. It's unfortunate, you know, but I think at the end of the day, like I'm not willing to go to the extremes that some people are yet. Like the whole we got to trade Randy thing, I'm not on board with that. Like, oh, this is gonna fuck up the whole season, like that. Like I don't buy into that yet. Like I'm not subscribed to that. Like at the very least, can we wait until these guys get back in the same room together and have a conversation with one another, especially with like Dan present, Manny Acta present? You know, can we wait to see what happens from that point forward first before we go to any more extremes? In general, like apparently Cal told Randy and all of his other teammates, hey, this is our policy. Please don't try and shake my hand, you know, and all that stuff. Okay, fine. He set a boundary. You shouldn't cross that boundary. That said, the policy is stupid. It's dumb. It's antiquated. It points to all the things that are wrong with Team USA, frankly. Just taking yourself way too seriously. It's a game. Guys. It's baseball. Like, it's not that serious. Like, I get it. You're playing for your country, all that stuff. Those guys on the other side, they're not your enemy. Like, stop acting weird about it. Like, stop. Like, that's just how I feel about it. Just stop making it weird. Right. And like, honestly, if I'm Cal, I'm tapping Randy on the back of the leg or whatever, like with my glove, like just to acknowledge him. And if Clayton Kershaw has a problem with that, or Alex Bregman has a problem with that, or Bryce Harper has a problem with that, who cares, dude? Get over yourself, frankly. But whatever. All right,
if he's Mark a rule follower. Has a problem with that, but he doesn't even know if you're like up for elimination or not. Like,
like who cares, dude? Yeah, so like whatever. That's just generally my stance on it. It's just like, who gives a shit, frankly. But you know, fine. You know, Cal set up a boundary and Randy took it too far, right? Because like, all right, Randy reached out for the handshake. Fine, whatever. He thinks that the policy is stupid, clearly, like a lot of us do, I think. And, he was like, dude, just shake my hand. And Cal didn't. All right, cool. He should have just left it at that. But then to go to the media and be like, go to hell, fuck you, blah, 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 like all that stuff that he said, crazy. Like, that's too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, like, not squashing it in the media, like not mentioning Cal by name. It should be done now. Whether it was squashed the best way or not, who cares? It should be done now. And at least in terms of like what we see from the public, obviously they still have to hash this out behind the scenes, but hopefully that stays behind the scenes. And hopefully we don't have to talk about this anymore. Hopefully both of those guys go on to have the seasons that we expect them to have, and this team goes on to have the season that we expect them to have, and we never have to talk about this again. And, as maybe, in a couple weeks time, Randy hits a homer with Cal on base and they greet each other at home plate and they do the Randy together like they did last year, and cool. We're all friends again, whatever. The problem though is like Mariners fans and a lot of baseball fans in general, but like Mariners fans especially, they get very involved in the personal lives of these players. And it like fucks with your perspective when not everyone just loves each other all the time, right? But you got 26 dudes who come from a whole lot of different backgrounds and a whole lot of different cultures and a whole lot of different ways of life and all this stuff coming together for like 7+ months at a time, every single day in the same room together, on the same field together. There's probably some crazy beef that none of us know about that players have had. There might be some guys who like secretly hate one another that we would be shocked to learn that, right? Yeah. On this team, so I don't think it's going to tear this club apart. I don't think you need to trade anyone as a result of this. I don't think this is going to impact what this team can or cannot do over the course of the season. And frankly, if it did, I think they have bigger issues to worry about than just this handshake thing. Like if they're going to let this whole, this thing just completely derail their season, I have questions about whether or not they were actual like real contenders at that point.
Yeah, I think the conversations that I've seen around have been very interesting. And, some of the conversations are, I'm just simply not qualified to take on. So I'll just finish with, kind of my perspective of it is just, by the end of it, my main thing was I felt terrible for Cal in the sense of, and some people don't want to hear that right now because they're still mad at him for not doing the handshake, that like whatever. And, at the end of the day, if people see a dismissed handshake as this like super huge form of disrespect, which I have seen like people say, then okay, I was not aware that people took that type of thing that seriously. But if that's, maybe that's a culture thing I'm not aware of, I don't know. So, at the end of the day, you have to form your own conclusion on how serious that type of thing is. But I think, it's like when you get all the bits and pieces together, right, of Cal said prior not to do it. And, regardless of if it's a stupid policy or not, like at the end of the day, it's not like Randy didn't know. Like, hey, I'm probably like, don't do that. You put Cal in a bad position then, okay? Mm-hmm. And then, regardless of how you agree, if Cal should have done what, should have given him the handshake, should have done something else or not, regardless, like that's the thing he was told not to do and he did it anyway. So Cal's in a bad position there.
Yep.
This wouldn't have been a big deal if one person didn't catch a video of this, by the way, because it wasn't on the broadcast or anything. This was a thing that went viral after the game. Yeah. So there's that. But also, then I think my thing was, with what Randy said, and I'm not saying that Randy can't feel disrespected by what happened. If he feels disrespected at the end of the day, like he has a right to feel that way. And like, that's totally fine. It's just the way that was conveyed is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. And it's, I don't necessarily want to tell people how to convey their emotions, but like, I just don't really see how it wasn't objectively kind of crazy, considering it was a teammate, considering this is a guy you're, in 10 days from that quote, you're going to be sharing the clubhouse with, and you say this all publicly, right? So
Yeah.
So then Cal has to see that, he has to take it. And then, next day Cal issues his own, statement to the media about it and all that jazz. So like, I know, Cal probably that's the last thing he wanted to do, but he had, felt like he had to do that, or someone told him to do that. Who knows? And then, I think the last thing, right, is just the fact that like Randy One at the WBC didn't take questions from reporters about it, just straight up didn't say anything, just kind of left it there. And it's just like, I mean,
yeah. So
if I'm Cal, and I'm not Cal, I feel like, what the hell, man?
Well,
like,
and then at that point, it's like, it's not just a heat of the moment thing, right? Because it's like, okay,
yeah,
because it's like, okay, he slept on it and now he's letting it continue and he's not willing to squash like that. That's where it becomes a problem. And let's just be honest about it. Like, Randy is in a contract year. This is now his second publicly known clubhouse beef. We all know about the Yandy thing. That was a big talking point when they first acquired Randy, and when we were talking about the potential of the Mariners acquiring Yandy Diaz from the Rays. And it's probably fucked up his potential future earnings a little bit. Now he could go have a monster year and then like that just kind of goes away. But like there are absolutely teams that have clocked this now.
Yeah.
And they're going like, do we want to bring this guy into the fold? Like, it's a bad look for him. And it's not the smartest approach, especially in this, particular year that he's in a contract year. So, I'm kind of surprised that like, Boris is his agent. I'm surprised that Boris didn't like step in and go like, no, you need to issue a statement, like actually like say like you and Cal are cool. Because I mean, look, like I know there's like a lot of people that have turned against Cal, and I mean, a lot of it is Yankees fans and Dodgers fans who have their own kind of like thing, their own angle with Cal, right? Whether it's Judge stuff or it's Will Smith defense or whatever. But like, that's one of the best players in the game. And you just like told him to go to hell and just shove it up his ass and all this stuff. Like,
I mean, here's the thing is neither of us know anything that goes behind closed doors, right? Like, and as you said, with kind of Randy, basically choosing not only not to say anything, but also to kind of do those subtle jabs and like Instagram stories and stuff.
Let
like,
it linger.
It's more of it's a legit personal thing. I think it, and it's been hypothesized, like it's probably a bit more than this handshake. And we don't know what that is, right? So at the end of the day, like we can't speak to, what are the real core dynamics here that are going on between Cal and Randy.
Yeah.
So I can only go off of what I know and the information that I have. And, I think for me too, I think that's the worst part of this whole thing in the sense of, when it comes to Cal, right? Like from everything we've heard about Cal and, Josh Naylor said it after, one, people thought his little jab attempt in the quarterfinals was legit, which of course people did. And then, but all of us knew like Josh is clearly trolling here.
I know. When John Boy like quote tweeted and he's like, this is lame. I'm like, come on, dude. Like it's obviously a joke.
Yeah. But no, like Josh Naylor even said, he's like, Cal's like one of the best teammates I've ever had. He was one of the big reasons, like when I came over here, I wanted to stay here, and everything we've ever heard about Cal has been good. We've never heard literally a bad thing about Cal until, not necessarily that we've heard anything now, but just more of, I think that's what's irked me a lot about the reaction to it, and not necessarily on, what Randy said, but more of just the way that I've seen other Mariner fans like almost talk about Cal in the sense of like he did this big like injustice and like, oh, he's maybe actually like just a really bad guy, or turning on the guy. I'm sorry, but like, once again, I don't know Cal personally, but based off the information I know, and then also like what he's meant to this franchise, it's just been kind of crazy that a handshake, a disregarded handshake, has quite literally made some Mariner fans just straight up turn on the guy. Is kind of nuts.
Well, and I think that probably gets into conversations deep, too deep than you want to go.
Probably
on this show.
Yeah,
but I think there's probably like I can see how people come to those conclusions, right? Just kind of like how like Team USA represents itself and kind of what they've made their whole identity and all that. Like the conversation goes a lot deeper than how we're talking about it right now. But yeah, like just on the surface, it's I don't think it's a great look for Randy. Just letting it linger, right? And I think the reality of it, right, wrong, or indifferent, is that it has hurt his, incoming free agency a little bit. Again, he can kind of erase that a little bit with having a good year. But in the end, I just kind of hope that it's something that stays behind closed doors for the rest of the year, and it's something that hopefully gets figured out. And again, it's not something that gets brought up, because look, even if this didn't happen, Randy could have a bad year, or Cal could have a significantly regressive year, right? But now, if that happens, it's going to be because of this, right? Even though it probably isn't because of this, it's going to be because of this, according to some people, right? It's just, that's what's going to happen. It's going to get turned into. It's because there has to be a rift in the clubhouse, and maybe there is. Who knows? But like we can't pretend to know that, and we shouldn't try and pretend to know like all the intricacies of the Mariners clubhouse, or any clubhouse, or any locker room in professional sports. Like at the end of the day, not all 26 guys are going to love one another. There was probably a lot of beefs that guys had with one another last year as they went to Game 7 of the ALCS, right? Like there was probably beefs inside the Dodgers clubhouse as they went on to win their second World Series. Like, that we just can't. I just don't want to pretend to know. I don't want to like create a bunch of other like bullshit on top of this, other than just like, listen, it sucked. It's a bad look for Randy specifically. I don't agree with Cal not shaking his hand and all that. I don't agree with this policy that Team USA has. I think it's super lame. But in the end, let's just move on. And at the very least, like, let's put a pause on this until, maybe something else comes out from it after these guys get back in the same room together.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at now. And, sorry to anyone who had to, listen to this and is all upset about us even talking about it because of how, it's been a thing now for over a week, pretty much, or around a week at this point.
Don't lie to yourselves. You love the drama.
Okay.
You love it.
Yeah.
You love the gossip.
But you also can turn the video off and whatever. I don't care.
It's a fast forward button for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at, at the end of the day, unless I hear, once Cal returns to camp and, while the season's going on, if there's more things coming out that this is really affecting stuff, I guess, then so be it. At the end of the day, like, all I really care about, and I think what irked me, part of what irked me the most, obviously, was the reaction about Cal, but also just, like, as ultimately a fan, whether I make content about them or not, like, ultimately I'm a fan of the Mariners and I want them to win. I want them to do as best as they can. That's what annoyed me the most. I'm like, do we really need to do this? Like, right before, we're supposed to do a season, where we have literal World Series aspirations, and now we have to deal with this, Like, can we all just get on the same page, on the same goal here? Oh, well, like, I don't know. It is what it is. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the last, I guess, of the WBC thoughts. Obviously the finals tonight between USA and Venezuela. So will be interesting to see how that goes, but it'll be done tonight. And then, you would imagine Cal Raleigh, Gabe Spire probably back in Dominic, well, not Dominic Canzone, Edward Bizardo and Jonathan Diaz technically will be back in camp.
For Jonathan Diaz's return.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's another topic that we need to talk about. They'll be back back at camp in the next 3 days, and all will go back to just being Mariners and Mariners only. So, I guess to end this out though, taking everything in, we're less than 10 days away from opening day. Like, kind of just, what's your overall feeling about the team? I feel like we're, I said at the very beginning, it's a weird time with the WBC and how much kind of like attention that takes away from the roster and the Mariners. Now that we're getting to a close of that tournament and it's going to go back to Mariners all the time. How are you feeling right now?
I think they're in a really good spot. I think the roster is in a really good spot. It's in the best spot that it's ever been at, heading into an opening day under, Jerry DiPoto and Justin Hollander. I think this team is absolutely capable of capitalizing on the momentum that they built last year. I think they're in a position to truly dominate the AOS this time around and not have to have like this thing go right and this thing. And obviously, over the course of any baseball season, even for the best teams in the world, you have to have things go right for you, right? But they haven't set themselves up where there's just so many variables that have to all kind of fall into place like there has been in previous years. I think the biggest thing is just that, there just aren't that many glaring holes. There's obviously question marks on the roster like Dom Canzone, Luke Rayleigh, Victor Robles, Cole Young, eventually Cole Emerson, the bullpen a little bit, how the rotation is pitched on the road, the health of a rotation, all that. There's obviously question marks, but there aren't holes, right? There aren't clear holes on the roster. Like even it's like, okay, yeah, you're going with an uncertainty at second base and Cole Young, and then maybe eventually Cole Emerson comes up at a certain point. But we're talking about two like legit prospects, right? Cole Young, like consensus top 50 prospect before he graduated from prospect status last year. Cole Emerson, consensus top 10 prospect in the game right now. Like this isn't Tommy La Stella. This isn't Cooper Hummel. This isn't that, right? And so that should mean in the end that they don't have to go out and kill it at the deadline this time around in order just to get to the playoffs, right? Because last year, like they needed the Arizona Diamondbacks to be mid and actually be willing to sell and actually be willing to trade Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. Like they needed a seller to perfectly align with what their needs ultimately were. This time around, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're more so in a position like the Blue Jays last year, where like just go get complementary pieces. The Blue Jays, they got Ty France and Louis Varland, guys like that, a couple bench pieces, another reliever to, deepen their bullpen. That's really it. And that's the position that you want to be in. You don't want to, like, I know that they prefer to do some of their heavy lifting at the trade deadline, especially for club controlled players. And that's fine. And they're still positioned to be able to go do that. But the big difference is they don't have to do that, or at least it doesn't feel like that. And that just makes the upside of this club even greater, right? It's not just like what the current players could be, what Cole Emerson could be. It's also like, all right, maybe you don't need to go out and get like an everyday player at the deadline, but could you? Well, yeah, because you still have one of the best farm systems in baseball. Like if Stephen Kwan is out there, it's like I don't necessarily need Stephen Kwan, but I could go get Stephen Kwan. Like if you want to go do that, then do it. Like, so like the team has they're already really good. They have the potential to be even better, which is really exciting by year's end. And obviously there's going to be some things that, go sideways, and there's going to be some things that go super well that we didn't expect to go well, and yada, yada, yada. That's baseball. But overall, like I feel really good about this team being the team to beat in the ALS. I think they legitimately have a chance to do what I think we're all hoping they can do, and that's make it to the World Series and actually win the damn thing. And I'm excited. Like so many years, being a Mariners fan, you kind of just like feel like all of this is so daunting, right? Like we're not supposed to get to the playoffs. We're not supposed to beat this team, right? We're not supposed to beat the Blue Jays or whatever. Like, and like I think a lot of people, like when we talk about the World Series, it's like, okay, yeah, they could get to the World Series, but then they're going to face the Dodgers, and obviously the Dodgers are just so much better. They're going to lose. I like the challenge. I want to be the team that beats the Dodgers. Like I wanted to be the team that knocked off the Astros. Like I want to be the team. I want to be the one that gets to the end and actually beats the Dodgers. Like why not the Mariners? So I'm excited about this season. I want the run back with the Blue Jays personally for very personal reasons. I need the run back with the Blue Jays, and I want to take care of business this time around. And then I want to face the Dodgers in the World Series, and I want to take them down. So and I think this team is absolutely capable of doing that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, they're very much primed, like, mentioning the trade deadline. They're very much primed to be kind of that team that really just gets like another high leverage guy in the bullpen and like, stuff like that, and it's like, it's nice to be that team instead of having, to really get the headliners of the trade deadline to have a good shot at it. At this point, you're 100% the favorite to win the AL West at this point by potentially numerous games. It's not, some super close thing where it's like, okay, well, maybe, obviously things can go wrong and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, there's been crazier things that have happened in baseball, but like, just on paper, you are easily the best team in the AL West. Take care of that and then move on. And, just hope everyone stays as healthy as possible, man. Like, because if we can get to the end with having our rotation pretty much intact still, like, there's just not very many better teams right now than the Seattle Mariners, which is nice to say.
Yeah, just remember what the goal ultimately is at the end of the day. It's not getting to the playoffs. It's not getting to the dance. So this is what I talked about leading up to them, clinching the AL West in September. It's like, that's all a stepping stone. The Astros, they're a stepping stone. The Blue Jays, that's a stepping stone. Like, what you ultimately want to do is go win the World Series. Like, for so long, we've made the goal for the Mariners to just be in the drought, win the division, overcome the Astros, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the finish line. Like, we saw what the finish line actually is last year. And like, you want to get there this time. And so, because you could have done it, right? Make a couple better pitches there. Down the stretch against the Jays. I think they absolutely could have hung with the Dodgers and maybe gotten that thing done in the World Series. Like, you know that you're capable of that, and you're bringing back a lot of the same guys. You have some new pieces that are really going to help you along the way. I think Brendan Donovan's such an excellent acquisition for them. I really like the Rob Refsnyder acquisition. I think Ferrer's going to be good. Like, they're really beefed up now, and I think, like, you can see it like on my face, and you can kind of hear it in my voice. Like, I really feel like this is the one. Like, this is the team. Like, I think some good, and maybe it's also me getting caught up in the whole like Seahawks just won the Super Bowl. Sonics are probably coming back this year. Like, it just kind of feels like it's like Seattle's year sports wise. But I mean, man, like, think about how crazy it would be, though. Like, Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, Sonics coming back, and the Mariners win the World Series all in the same year. Crazy. So let's make it happen. Fuck it. Why not?
I mean, if that all did happen, then that would probably be one of the better like sports years maybe of all time, and like for any city,
like regardless of city. yeah.
But now it's also like we're getting too greedy, and now like the sports gods have to strike us down a little bit.
But how about this? How about it's about time that we get greedy. Like, we've hardly ever had.
Shout out Jeff Passan. You were just early.
I'm turning 30 in May, and I just experienced only my second championship ever of my favorite team. like ever. I've lived 30 years and I've experienced 2 championships in my life of teams that I follow. Like, so yeah, it's about time. It's about time that I like get a little greedy. I'm like, you know what? Why can't we be Boston for a year?
That's going to be it for my talk with Dane Gonzalez. Thank you so much to him, obviously, for coming back onto the channel. Of course, the descriptions for Locked On Mariners are going to be down below. They're doing a really fun top 50 Mariners moments bracket right now, which they are on the tail end of. Opening day is right around the corner. It's getting close to the season. I am stoked. I'm sure you are as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. And you can comment down below any of your thoughts about any of the topics we talked about. I'd love to hear from you. But that's going to be it for me in this one, and I will see you in the next.